Hello, welcome to the next social media project clone part. Now that we have our views for the post app and the urls.py file complete, let's create the template HTML files for the post pages. Once that is completed, we can begin to debug in the next lecture. All right, let's hop over to the editor and get start. Here it is my editor. So what I have gone ahead and done is under the post application, under templates, under post, I have that HTML files that we created earlier in this section of the course. Now what we are going to do is start off by editing a post underscore base.html. This is the post base file. So first we are going to extend from our initial base.html, which has the navigation bar. Okay, and so let's create a block, and this block is going to be called content, and then inside of this I'm going to create a div class, and this will be the post page in case I ever want to edit this. And then inside of that I will create a container, and then uh, inside of that container I will create a row. And then what we are going to do here is just have three blocks, and it is going to be just like we did with the groups. It will be pre-post, the post content, and then post. Uh, so here, so pre-post, and then I am just going to delete this blank space and copy and paste this. So this could look really familiar to you after we did the group base. So pre-post, and then this is going to be called post underscore content, and then we'll call post kind of weird. This post content and post, it's kind of weird. Post, what is this? But I will explain you. That's basically all we have to do with the post underscore base HTML file, just like we did with the group base HTML file earlier. Coming up next, we are going to do is create the post form. So I'm going to open up post HTML form, and this is the HTML template that linked to creating a new post. We are going to say extends from post slash post base HTML, and then we are going to load Bootstrap 3. But in your case, it may be Bootstrap 4, Bootstrap 5. You have to do that, and hopefully this feels really familiar to you, because this is essentially just like that group form page, and then we are going to have our block, and it will be the post content. Then we are going to say h4, and after h4 we can go for h3. So whenever you want, create a new post, and then we'll insert a form here and the class. So we actually will just give this an ID in case we ever want to mess around with it. It will just be post form ID, and then the action is going to go back to a URL template. So there is going to be URL post create. Then we are going to say method is post. Method is here post, not a get. So that's all we need inside of this actual form. We need a couple of things. So once, as always, CSRF token will be essential, and we are going to actually call our form. So let's do that with the template tag. And since we are using Bootstrap 3, in your case it may be Bootstrap 5, we are just going to say Bootstrap here underscore form, make this look nice, and then pass that form. Once you have done that, we just need the input button. So we have the input button. So the type is submit the name. That does not really need a name. So the value we'll give it. Okay, so go ahead and give it a class based of some bootstrap things. So we'll say button. Okay, primary type button, and a lot of this is really up to you. So this is button large, and it's just some style similar to what we did with the group application. and the post base is really similar to the group base, and the then post form really similar to the group form. And now let's move on to the actual post list HTML. So again, this is the post list HTML file, the one I am working right now, and we are going to do here is start off by extending. So you will say extends post slash post underscore base HTML, and then we are going to call our blocks. So our block will say pre-post content, and we'll start off here by saying div class call this MD medium. Okay, dash 4. Then the next thing I want to do is check if the user is actually authenticated. So what I can do here is say if, and here I need to call the request user is authenticated. Okay, so then inside of that we are going to say create a div class, and we are going to use some kind of bootstrap step here also. So basically a card with shadow. Uh, Again, this is all really styling call, so you don't have to do it this way. In fact, you can just do no classes if you kind of get idea of the bare bones content, and then adding classes as you get more and more familiar with Bootstrap. But inside of this, we'll have a this S5 title that we can later edit, and this is just going to say your groups. So so if the user is logged in, we want to list out their groups, and then we are going to say create an unordered list, and we'll give this a class list. List unstyled. Again, you don't really need to follow along with those classes exactly. So the next thing we are going to do inside the unordered list is say for member underscore group, and this can just be a variable name, whatever you want to call it in, and this is where it's going to look a little familiar. So we'll say get user group. And you might be wondering, this looks a little familiar, this underscore user groups. So what that actually is, if you remember back on the groups application when we were working with the models.py file under the groups, and we had this form Django import template register is equal to this template library. And that actually allowed us to, if we scroll down over here, use this related name to actually grab that, and you can add the underscore to connect to the group member. Now definitely check out the documentation because this is more of an advanced thing, but basically that allows us to do a link from the post to the group member. So we'll come back to post list, and now we are saying for member group and get user groups. So essentially, if you are a user for every group that you are actually a member of, what we are going to do is create a list item, and that's going to be an anchor tag inside of that. And essentially, it's just going to say your URL groups single, where the slug, let's make sure that's in single quotes and spaced out correctly, where the slug here is equal to uh, member underscore group. So so basically grabbing the member group inside of all this users groups, and then grabbing that group of that model, and then grabbing slug of that group. So that's what the entire line is doing. Let me collapse the tree so you can see that whole thing a little better. So definitely a more advanced call there, and what I am going to do is add a class to the list member list element, so it just looks a little nicer in the future. So let's make this class equal to, and we are going to say group and then add on ly with uh, bullet li with bullet. Save that, and then that's going to end our for loop, and that will be the end of the unordered list, and we are going to keep down going down until we get to the end. If so far we have that little view where someone can see all the groups that they belongs to, and then we are going to continue on after this. And if so, we'll create another div, and we'll say card with shadow here. Then inside of this we'll create a div. The class call will be content, and then we'll say heading 5, and we'll give this a class equal to title, and this will be just all groups. And then we will say an unordered list, and inside let's give this a class. So this will be list dash and styled in case we ever want to edit that. And here what we are going to say is another for loop. So we'll say for other group in get underscore other underscore groups. So create a list elements, and then we'll say create an anchor tag where the reference is going to be the following URL groups single. Essentially what we just did where the slug is equal to makes sure that single quotes that they are correctly. There we go, where that slug is equal to other group. So that slug. So there I'm not actually calling a member group, so I don't need to call other group. So the group itself is right here, and there are other group that will end the for. And let's also give this list a nice class so it looks a little nicer. So let list elements. It's going to have a class equal to group, and we will say li with a bullet, and save that for bullet, and then end that for loop. Then finally all the way past this under unordered list and all the divs right after this and block, we are going to scroll down and create another block here. So we'll say block post content, and then inside of this we'll say div class, and this is going to be equal to call column medium. Okay, medium type of 8. Then we are going to save for the post in post list. So we will inject that on underscore post, which we are going to work on in just a little bit. So we'll say include. We have actually already seen this before, and the groups pages will say post underscore post HTML, and then save that. So here we have included, we are going to be able to inject the post.html, and we have these two basic things. One is checking if the request user is authenticated. So we have that list right here of those member groups saving that. Let's move along. Going to close this. So let's deal with the actual underscore post HTML file, since I just down here said include it. So I will open up underscore post HTML. So remember this underscore post dot HTML that I'm about to do loops underscore. So again, find your underscore post HTML file, and then here what we will do is we actually I don't need to extend from, because we know we are directly going to inject this right here. We are not going to have it a part of a full page by itself. So in that case, we actually don't need to say extends. Instead, we will basically start right where we want to, which is going to be something like a div. So we'll have a div here, and then the heading 3 is going to just be the post message HTML. Then we want it to be safe so that it looks good. So we'll say div and we'll give this class media body, and then we'll have a strong call here, or bolded does not really matter with post user dot username. And so the actual names of the person here, that's going to be the symbol, and then we'll have h5. And let's give this a class of media heading. And again, we may or may not use all these classes, really up to you. Then after that we are going to have a span, and then we'll say let's give this man a class for username. Okay, and then inside of this we'll say given anchor tag. So that anchor tag is going to be a URL reference. So that anchor tag is going to be what this I'm going to this URL reference post. So post, make sure that this course quotes post for the user. So that's essentially linked to that actual user's individual post. And then where the username is equal to post dot user dot username. So what does that actually mean? Well, basically we are going to have the post message, and then whoever wrote the post, that means the actual username. And then if you click on that username, which is going to be something like what you can do, your name or anything in whatever the username is, it will take you to all the posts for that particular user. And this essentially is the link between clicking on someone's name and then viewing their quote unquote profile. In our case, the profile is really simple. It's just a list of all the users posts. So that ends that span here. Next thing you are going to do is create a little time tag. So the time tag is actually going to allow us to post the time, and that's going to essentially indicate what time was this post created. So we'll give this class equal to time. In case we ever want to edit that, and then inside of this will be another anchor tag, and then we'll say ref, and let's just have this take you back to your URL post single, where the username is equal to post dot user dot username, where the primary key is equal to the post primary key. Okay, great. And we can actually kind of close that off in case it's getting too long, and that will end that time. And then what we should do is actually paste this whole thing inside of the heading 5. So let me grab that closing tag and paste it right here. There we are going, and then we have our div tags. So let's continue on by right after this h5, and we are going to create a new div, and we'll give it again media footer class media slash footer. Now we are going to say if inside of this if statement, I will check if the user is authenticated or not. So if the user is authenticated, so okay, so if the user is authenticated here and using this, I also want to confirm that not only the user logged in, but the actual post is the use this user's post. So I want to say, and if post user is equal to the current user, so if those two things are true, then this person should be able to delete the post, which means we are going to have an anchor tag here, and we'll send them to the URL of post delete, where the primary key is equal to the post dot primary key. And then let's go ahead and give this a couple more things here. So uh, I can also give this something like a title if we really wanted to. So we could say title and delete. And then let's also give this a class. So I was getting a little too far. So I'm going to continue with the anchor tag, their class. This will just be a basic class. Button simple. Okay. So simple button there. And then inside of this, let's actually create a span so we can call a glyph icon. So I will say class and then glyph icon and then remove text. And so then we are also going to say Arial that area hidden is equal to true. Basically, you may have seen hidden before, but you have not seen area hidden. So what that is, that's accessible rich internet application and that defines a way to make the web content and web application more accessible to people with disabilities. So basically, what happens is if certain people have disabilities, they have screen readers, so they kind of hover their mouse or the one up window and it will start reading stuff for them. So instead of just saying hidden for people with those disabilities or using those screen readers, we have this are hidden, and basically what that means is the hidden attribute that's new in HTML5. It tells browsers not to display the element, and this particularly one tells screen readers to ignore the element and not read it out loud. So again, this is actually just kind of keeping in mind people with disabilities and putting it in there. So let's continue along, and after that we are going to just create the actual delete. So we'll say another span here. So make sure I start writing it, and let's give this a class text to text dash danger icon label, and we'll say delete. That's going to be the end if there is, and that's is for this underscore post. So you should have three closing divs after that at the very bottom. So that's it for underscore post. We still have a couple more things to do. You finish underscore post, finish post underscore base dot html. Have not done confirm delete. So let's take care of that. Now that one's pretty straightforward, what we are going to do is say extend post slash post base clips uh, dot html, and then we are going to say a block of post content. So let's create a heading 3 asking something like, are you sure you want to delete? So this post question mark, then inside of this say div, and so then we'll say class post, and this is where we are going to include so you will include post slash underscore post html. Then we can say with post equal to object the post slash post dot html, and then we'll say hide delete equal to true. So let me try that on accidentally do doubles here. So here there is a little include inside of that div. So it actually kind of includes the post you are going to delete. And then finally we need our form. So the form does not need a class. Doesn't even need an action. We just need a method to post take in a quick CSV token here, CSRF token, and then we'll say input type is submit. So essentially just saying yes, I want to delete. So we can give it a value of confirmed delete just to make it really obvious to the user that they are about to delete their post. So confirm. Then let's give this a class. Good class, probably danger button, and let's give it a large. So we have this button, button in danger, and button large. So we'll create a link here for your URL post single. So that is essentially going to be the cancel button and that we are building out. So username is equal to user dot username since we know they have to be logged in to even reach this page. And then primary key will just be a object primary key. So essentially just the way to go back and let's make sure this is spelled right. So there we go. So so they can either hit this confirm delete input button which submit that they do want to delete this which is linked to our delete view. So they have this cancel button which is going to be essentially a link here and then let's say cancel. Okay. And actually we need to give this a class so it looks good and inside of this anchor tag I'm going to give a class and we'll have that class be equal to let's say button simple, so button large and button default. Now we can just keep stacking them. That really doesn't matter. So that's looking good. That's the end of our form, and that should be the end of our block. So that is the confirmed deletes. Essentially, just saying, okay, do you want to delete this? If not, take them back to the actual post, that individual post detail view. So speaking of detail views, that one of the we have left, we already have post form, post list, and we still need to be do a user post list, which is going to be really similar to post list. But let's take out that post detail page first. So luckily for us, we actually take care of a lot of that work. So we just need to extend from post to post underscore base dot html and then say give a block of post underscore content. So creative class of call this post content dash medium dash 8. Then we are just going to include post slash underscore post html. That's all we have to do because basically all the heavy lifting of the actual post detail page was done in underscore post html. Okay, so we are going to have that ready to go. Then we have post ready to go post list and we just need the user post list which is actually quite simple. So a super post list is going to extend from post underscore post base html. So we'll have a block here for the pre-post and then inside of this we'll have a div and let's make this empty for each one and that will say so we'll say post user dot username. So it actually shows the username uh, before the post. So it actually shows the username that that is the username of the post user. You can also put this above the post, does not really matter, or below the post. So either above or below the post where we prefer the username, that's fine. Then we are going to say block post content. So we'll create a div for this and the class is going to be called dash medium class it. It's going to be for loop that says for post in post underscore list. And what we'll do is include post forward slash underscore post html. Save that then that's actually it for user list. So definitely did a lot of the heavy lifting for the templates. So this is the stuff that is really easy to make a typo mistake, and I'm sure I have made one along the way, which we have going to be debugging in just a little bit. So in the very next lecture, we are going to be make sure all the settings and all our migrations are ready to go, and then we'll start debugging. So definitely check against the provided node files to make sure that everything you have messed up with those nodes file which you have inside the course content.